So pay attention, because if you're thinking of getting this unit, you're going to want to know this. I plugged my second one in, it gave me no end of trouble. Kept crashing. Look what I've just picked up. The Rode Wireless Go 2 dual channel wireless microphone system. Yay! So I wanted to get these wireless mics. There's a few on the market because as a driving instructor, I'm looking to do some recording in my car with the GoPro, as well as my new dash cam, the Navman 4K Pro dual camera dash cam that I just did a review on. So the microphone in the dash cam is certainly sufficient if you needed evidence of an accident or something like that. The microphone in the GoPro, you can hear what people are saying. It's very muffled. The audio quality is not great, particularly if you're driving in a car, because you've got all the glass around you. It's very echoey. You're driving down the road. You've got the air conditioner on. You're a fair distance from the GoPro camera, depending on where you position it. So after a bit of research, I looked at a few different microphone options, and obviously there's quite a few. You can buy the media mod kit for your GoPro, which gives you a little microphone. The quality is much better than this, but still not fantastic. Obviously, you could get an external mic, like a shotgun mic, like I've got the Rode Video Go mic. Not a bad mic, but then you need to plug this into a device. I can't plug this directly into my GoPro unless I have the media mod kit or something else. And then, where do I position this in my car where it's not in the way? Of course, I could plug my external mic into a recording unit like my Tascam DR60D, which is a great little unit, or something like my Zoom H5N, also a great unit. Or for that matter, I could just use this as an external recorder, because this unit records onto an SD card, already has the microphone, the XY microphone pattern built in. So I could position this somewhere in the car and use this. Also has the wind filter, which does block a fair bit of air conditioning noise, etc. Again, the problem I see with this is you don't get this close enough to you to pick up an awesome audio signal. You're going to have to position it a fair distance, which of course is then going to pick up air conditioning, road noise. In other words, the logical choice is something like the Rode wireless microphone that you can either button onto your shirt or across your seatbelt. That's very close to you. Or something like a lavalier mic. So I've decided to go for the Rode wireless microphone system. What I like about this is there are two of them, two transmitters, one receiver, which means if I'm literally driving with a student in the car, the student could have one next to him or her on their seatbelt. I could have one on my seatbelt and it would pick up both of us. This is kind of the perfect scenario for two people in a car driving. Obviously perfect for interviews, two people conversations, those sorts of things as well. Or anywhere where you need to or want to position yourself a fair distance from the camera, but still have good quality audio. Now, I had a choice to make this morning when I went and bought these. Do I go for the Rode Wireless Go 2, which is like $450 Australian, or the Rode Wireless ME, which is only about $240, so like $200 cheaper. The reason I went with this one over the ME, because the deal breaker for me was the Rode Wireless Go 2 has internal storage, which means I can record directly to the receiver, bring the receiver home, upload the footage, the audio to my computer, and there it is. The Wireless ME, on the other hand, doesn't have that. Doesn't have onboard recording. You literally have to download the iPhone app or Android app and record either directly to your app or directly into your camera, which again, I don't have an input into my camera without going and buying either the media mod or the cable that allows me to connect a microphone into my camera. Whereas this is just going to allow me to do what I want to do straight out of the box. So, let's crack the box open, have a look at what's inside, power it up, have a listen to it inside here in this room, paired up against something like my Heil PR40 broadcaster quality microphone, and then we'll go for a drive with it in the car using the GoPro and this to replicate some engine noise, air conditioning, road noise, and talking inside of a car, which is completely different than talking inside concrete walls, obviously. So, let's open the box. Ta-da! We're done with that. So, got a little pouch to put everything in. Box of goodies here, which consists of cables and instruction manual, which looks fairly simple and straightforward. Bit of light reading. So 3 cables. So rather than charging them individually, you can charge all 3 at a time. That's nice. And then you've got this little cable here, which is obviously the cable that if you were plugging your unit directly into your camera, you would put a cable from your receiver into the input of your camera, so the audio that the receiver picks up goes straight to the camera. But I'm not going to do that because, again, I'm mainly going to be recording to my GoPro, so I want to record directly to the unit, which, as I said earlier, is the whole reason I went with the Go 2 rather than the ME. Now in here we have, do not eat this, you wouldn't want to, the 3 units along with 3 fluffy wind socks, which obviously they're designed to filter wind noise. So kind of like you have the dead cat on microphones, this is what this is. So you know, like on some microphones, particularly shotgun microphones, if you're shooting footage outside, you would use something like a dead cat, which is basically a big windsock which helps to break the wind noise, and that's what these little guys are for. So that should be good when using these microphones inside a car with the engine running and the air conditioning running. So 2 of these units are identical, one of them's completely different. 2 of them are transmitters, one's a receiver. So clearly this one here is the receiver. These 2 here are the transmitters. So let's power it up and try it out. So, what happens when we hit the power button on this thing? Okay, comes up, power on, gives us a battery indicator, tells us that there are 2 channels, channel 1 and channel 2. There's no signal, so let's turn one of them on. Now, I can see that the power lights have come on this one, and I can see that as I'm talking, this is obviously recording because you can see the needle moving as I'm talking into it. So I think it's working. Let's now turn this one on, power button, 2 blue lights, and now looking at the receiver, I can see that both channel 1 and channel 2 are working. So that's a good thing. Now I'm guessing this thing should just work. So I'm going to turn one of these off. That one's off. And now I'm literally holding this microphone and I'm literally recording directly into it. So what we're going to do in a moment is have a listen to the audio quality of this. Whoa, this has been an interesting experience and it's actually been a bit annoying. So pay attention, because if you're thinking of getting this unit, you're going to want to know this. Now, logically, I would have thought 2 transmitters, 1 receiver. I would have thought these guys have got the microphone built in. You talk into this, your interviewee, in my case, my student, whoever, they talk into this one. Both microphones send the signal, being the transmitters, to the receiver. Logically, I would have thought the receiver has the onboard storage, stores the audio from both transmitters. You then take the receiver along with the cable, plug it into your PC, and upload the audio that you've recorded from your transmitters to the receiver and upload it to your PC. It doesn't work like that. So when recording this video, I've actually done a lot of audio recording thinking, okay, yay, let's have a listen to it. Could not figure out how to get the audio off the receiver. Couldn't work it out. So I went online. I did some research. I did a few queries in Google. I then found it's not as simple as plugging this in and talking to it. You have to download the Rode app to your PC, which I've done. I then plugged this in. The app then said, hey, this is running version 2.0 of the firmware. You need to upgrade to 2.5. So I did it. It then says you need to do the same with your transmitters. So I plug one in, it updated to 2.5. I plugged my second one in, it gave me no end of trouble. didn't want to update to version 2.5, kept crashing, said that there was audio files on the transmitter. Did I want to save them? Well, yes, of course I want to save them. Which then made me realise, the audio files are saved to the transmitter, not the receiver? Doesn't make sense. But that's exactly what it does. So, it kept crashing. It kept saying that it couldn't back the files up. It kept saying it couldn't update the firmware. Great. So have I got a dodgy unit? That's what I thought. I then go on to Reddit and other forums. Has anyone experienced this problem? Yes. You can't update the transmitter or the receiver unless you charge the battery. So clearly, the one that I did all the recording to, out of the box, had a little bit of charge on the battery. After doing some recording, the battery level dropped down to a point where it wouldn't let me update the firmware. So I put this one on charge. I was then able to update the firmware. So remember that if you buy one of these, that's the problem you're going to have as well, more than likely. So I've since updated the firmware on all 3 units, including the transmitters and the receiver, but I've lost all the files that I had recorded to this because it wiped them during the firmware update. So straight out of the box, rather than trying to do a recording, download the app, update the firmware if it needs to be updated on all 3 units, then go and do it. Now here's another crazy thing, and this just does my head in. I'm not even sure when I first started recording if the thing was even recording or not. I'm pretty sure it was. But now it turns out there is a setting you have to configure in the app to turn on the recording mode. So in other words, straight out of the box, the thing won't just automatically record when you think it will. You literally have to select it in the app. Would you like this thing to record when you first turn it on? Yeah, well, I would have thought that would have been the default. Turns out it's not the default. So, after a lot of mucking around, I've now realised that I've now set these up that when I turn them on, they will automatically just start recording. There are a couple of settings you can have where it records straight away, or you can have it where it starts recording as soon as it's paired to the receiver. So what I've learnt from that is this receiver doesn't record anything. It doesn't have internal memory. The 2 transmitters have their own internal memory. This is recording this conversation. This is recording that conversation. You then take each one individually and upload the audio from each one. Now here's the crazy thing. I have now set it up in the app that as soon as I turn this on, it's going to start recording. It doesn't need this. Doesn't need the receiver. The transmitter is what has the onboard recording. So in other words, this is a little bit of overkill for what I need, because essentially what I need is to be able to sit in front of my GoPro, talk into this microphone that will record what I'm saying. Distance won't be a problem because my mouth is close to the microphone. I upload the video, I upload the audio, and I sync the 2 in production. If I have a student in my car, they can wear one, I can wear one, we can both talk to each other while sitting in front of a camera, and I can pair all 3. This is not required in my setup, which then makes me think I'm paying for this device that I don't need. So I think on Rode's part, they could bring out another option because the Rode Wireless ME only has 2 units, not 3, which is why it's cheaper, but neither of them have onboard storage. You literally have to record to your app. So I didn't want that. I wanted this where I don't have to record to the app. It records to the onboard storage. But I've got this receiver that I don't need in my setup, which means if the whole setup is $450, that means each unit's probably worth 150 or so. This one's probably worth slightly more because this has got all the LCD display and all the bells and whistles. So in other words, this is probably worth a couple of $100. These are worth 100 or so each. So Rode should bring out a unit where it doesn't have this. You can literally buy 2 transmitters. Both of them have onboard recording. That's a suggestion. Now I get it. If I wanted to use this, I could literally plug a cable into the output jack and then plug the other end of it into my camera. And then the camera would record what is coming to the receiver. I get it. And then that's a safety mechanism because you're recording directly to the card as well as the camera via the transmitter. Makes sense. So literally, if you're connection got lost between this and this, you've got backup here. Great. And I could see how that could be an advantage, but not in my setup. I don't need it. The other advantage I could see in using this as well as these is because when this is turned on, it gives me a display of the audio level. It gives me a battery indicator, shows me how much battery life each one of these has got, etc. So it may be worth using this as well, but just know for what I'm using, I don't actually need it for any of the recording practicalities of it. So in other words, literally throw that away. As soon as I turn this on, it's going to start recording. So let's start recording. I'm going to run it through the app, download the audio to my computer, and we're going to have a listen to it. First thing I'm going to do, at the moment, this whole time, I've been talking on my Heil PR40 microphone. This is a high quality microphone. It's a broadcast quality microphone. This microphone alone is worth more than this whole setup. The quality on this should sound very good. That's what I've been using. Let's now switch over to this. So hopefully what I've said has made sense. All I need to do, not worry about turning that on, just turn this on and it's going to start recording. So if I hold the power button on, both blue lights have come on. This is now recording. Let's have a listen to it. So I am literally holding this the same distance as I am from the Heil. The Heil PR40, I'm at about a fist length away. The Rode Wireless Go, I'm at about a fist length away. I don't have the fluffy filter, dead cat, whatever you want to call it. I don't have it on this one. This one's not turned on. I don't need it, not using it. I'm just using this one. So currently holding on to it. This is the Rode Wireless Go 2. It's my go-to microphone, literally. Yeah, I'm holding on to it. Obviously, the whole idea behind this microphone is to not hold on to it, but to have it clipped onto your shirt or your seatbelt or whatever else. So let's do that. So that's now sitting on my shirt collar. That is essentially what you would do if you were walking down the street vlogging, or you were driving the car and you wanted to record the audio. This is probably where you would have it sitting, somewhere like this, or as I said, across your seatbelt, which I'm going to do shortly when we go for a drive in the car to have a listen to the audio quality there. So literally, I'd have the camera in front of me, I'd be talking, the camera could be at any distance, I could walk away from the camera, be closer to the camera. It'll make no difference because I'm not recording audio from the camera, I'm recording it from the wireless microphone. Okay, let's now have a listen to it with the little dead cat on it. In fact, rather than mucking around, I'll just switch from this one to this one. So I'll turn this one off now. Now I'm back to the Heil PR40. I'm going to turn this little one on. Problem with it, with the dead cat. Okay, so with the dead cat, a little bit harder to see the blue lights, but I can see that they are on. So let's switch over now to this one. And here I am talking in the Wireless Go 2 microphone at about a fist length away with the fluffy, furry dead cat on it. And how does this sound? Shouldn't make a huge difference inside my office here because obviously there's no air noise, there's no road noise. I don't have the air conditioner on, I don't have the car driving along the road. I am sitting relatively close to my computer. You may hear the computer fan, or potentially you may have heard the computer fan without the filter. Now with it, you may not. Who knows? We'll have a listen in a moment. Let's now position this on my shirt collar to replicate the same as what I was just doing previously. Let's do that now. Okay, so again, I've now put this on my shirt and I'm just talking like normal. If I was sitting in front of the GoPro or any other camera for that matter, I'm now talking directly, just normally. This is picking up the audio from the wireless mic that's clipped to my shirt. It's quite discreet, you can't really see it. It's black like my shirt. It's got the fluffy filter on it, which is also black. Standing here with the GoPro, it would be a good vlogging microphone. You don't need to hold on to anything. You can change your distance from the camera. It's not going to affect it. Let's now go back to the Heil PR40, which we are listening to now. And what I'm going to do now is upload this audio. And now that I've figured out how to do it, and maybe you already knew that. Maybe you already knew that two transmitters each had their own onboard recording and the receiver was simply used to plug into the camera. And if you're not using the camera directly, you don't need this. Personally, I just think it's a little bit of overkill because obviously I've had to pay for it, even though I'm not using it. So I think that's a little bit of extra money that I could have saved, or anybody else who needs a similar setup to what I'm using shouldn't be paying for that if they don't need it. Rode should bring out another option where it's just 2 transmitters, both with onboard recording, and you don't have the receiver because you're not plugging it into your DSLR camera or your mod kit on your GoPro or whatever, because there would be a market for people who need to use it in a similar sense to how I'm using it. So, how does this sound? Okay, so the Rode is now powered up, but I'm not using it yet. Okay, let's go for a drive. So right now you're still listening to the audio coming directly out of the GoPro. Now, just as a quick comparison, let's quickly switch over to the Rode Wireless Go. So you are now listening to the Wireless Go microphone, which is just here, and there should be a massive difference because obviously the GoPro is about an arm's length away from me, placed on the windscreen mount. So obviously talking directly into this microphone, that's literally a fist length or so away from my mouth. This is a condenser mic. It's omnidirectional, which means it's picking up noise from all around it. The audio quality on this should be much better than the audio quality on the GoPro. Let's just quickly switch back to the GoPro for a moment. And obviously, as you will probably hear, there's going to be a lot more noise. It's going to sound a lot more muffled than this, which is going to be a lot crisper and cleaner. So you're currently still listening to the GoPro audio. Let's get out onto the main road. Okay, so we're now driving along the main road. It's an 80 km/h zone. I've just pulled out onto the road. I'm talking directly into the GoPro. I'm doing 70, working my way up to 80. It's 30 degrees outside, so it's quite a hot day as well. So I have the air conditioner on number 3 of 4, so 75% of the way on. So there's a fair bit of air coming through. There's a fair bit of road noise because I'm doing 80 down the road and with the air conditioner on, no radio on. Let's now switch over quickly to the Rode Wireless. So now you're listening to the Rode Wireless Go mic, still doing close to 80. I'm slowing down now for a 70 zone. So I will pause this video and come back when the car gets going again, because I'm now coming up to some traffic lights. So of course I'm slowing right down for the traffic lights. Even though I'm parked and stationary, the air conditioner is still on number 3 of 4, so 75% of the way. So there's a fair bit of wind coming out of this aircon, and the reality is this wind is probably hitting this microphone fairly well straight on, because it's hitting me straight on into my face, which is nice and cool, but obviously not great for microphones. So if this wind is hitting the microphone, hopefully having the little fluffy filter on here is enough to break some of that wind noise up. Okay, so we're heading back up to 80 k's an hour again. You're still listening to the Rode Wireless Go. I am driving down the road. I am going to come into a 60 zone because there's a fair bit of roadworks coming on up here, so I've just dropped down to 60. Let's switch back to the GoPro for a moment. So I'm now doing 40 k's an hour in the roadworks, and you're listening to the GoPro. How's the engine noise? How is just the general car noise? The audio, as in me talking to the GoPro, the audio quality is not anywhere near as good as this Wireless Go. Well, at least I hope it's not, because otherwise I've just wasted a fair bit of dough on these things. Close to $400 and something. Not close to, it was $440 or something. So I'm expecting there to be a massive change in audio quality, which you would expect, because it is a much better quality microphone. It is positioned closer to me, and the price of these microphones is essentially about the same as what I probably paid for the GoPro back in the day. So obviously with a GoPro, you're paying for the technology of the camera as opposed to the audio, whereas this is the same price just for the audio, so you would expect better quality audio, obviously. Okay, so you've just been listening to the GoPro through the roadworks. I'm still doing 40 k's an hour. I'm just going to quickly switch over to the Wireless Go. As we come out of the roadworks, we're going to come up to 70 k's an hour very shortly. Once we get out of the roadworks and past the 70 km/h sign, Okay, so I'm starting to accelerate out of the roadworks, listening to me talking on the Rode Wireless Go. The audio quality of these two should be completely different. Coming up to a set of lights, slowing down, which again also picks up a bit more engine noise, so rather than the complete driving, consistent driving along the road, stopping and starting, particularly taking off, got the engine noise and all that. So how much of that is being picked up by the microphone? So the reality is, the reason I purchased the Rode Wireless Go microphone is because I wanted to do exactly this. Talk while I'm driving, giving commentary, putting together some training tutorial videos for my driving school. And I've just found from my experience that while the GoPro may have some fairly good video quality, well, sufficient for what I need, its audio is, I'm not going to say unusable because I have used it, it's just not the best audio quality. And I think video, particularly today, gone are the days where you can just upload a video to YouTube and people will watch it regardless because the information is good. Because obviously people expect a certain level of video and audio quality, and nobody's going to listen to something that is difficult to hear or not pleasant to the ears. So they want something that is informative, useful information with reasonably good video quality, and to be honest, even better audio quality. People would put up with mediocre video quality if the content is good, but they won't put up with nasty audio quality because it's not fun to listen to bad audio. It's not nice on the ears, and we shouldn't have to. A lot of YouTubers and vloggers and content creators have said the exact same thing. If you've got a certain budget, you're better off to spend your money on better quality audio than better quality video for that reason. Stats have proven that people are more forgiving of okay to mediocre video quality, but not audio. And you're probably the same. You're not going to sit there and listen to rubbish. And the fact that you're watching a video with a review on the Rode Wireless Go microphone system leads me to believe that you're of the same opinion. You're looking to up your audio quality. You're looking to take your audio to the next level, whatever your situation is. So for me, my consensus is this. Driving along in the car, watching and listening to the GoPro audio is okay, borderline, not very acceptable for high quality video recordings, because the audio is really letting the GoPro down, because it is a long way from me. Even if I could sit right on top of the GoPro, then obviously I'm not going to have the video quality. So using the audio directly from the GoPro, not great. And I think, to be honest, even if I had the Media Mod kit, which puts the external little microphone on the side case of the GoPro, I don't think that's going to up my audio quality anywhere near as good as what this has done. I did also find that when I was doing a recording in the office, just listening to the office recordings, I found that the microphone does sound a lot better if you can get it a little bit further away from your chest. So like literally when it's on my chest, it's going to sound a little bit more boomy, bassy, a little bit reverberated. If it's sitting on my chest like it is here, it doesn't sound as crystal clear as when I was holding it like this in my hand away from my chest. This was the best sound quality that I got out of it. And I just know from listening to it yesterday that that was better sound quality, just holding on to the microphone, than having it right on my chest. But obviously I can't hold it while I'm driving, but that was my experience. I've just turned the air conditioner down to number 2, so I'm now on 50%, 2 of 4 rather than 3 of 4, which was 75%. So I've noticed a little bit of a difference in the fan the fan noise, the actual wind directly on me, hence as a byproduct also hitting the microphone. Whether it's going to make a big difference or not, I'm yet to determine when I listen back to this. But for the most part, I think the audio quality of this is very, very good. As you would have seen in the video, I did have a little bit of trouble initially setting these things up because they're not as intuitive as I would have first thought, because my initial thought was I would have needed the receiver to transmit to the receiver, record directly onto the receiver, and then download the footage from the receiver. That wasn't the case. I don't need the receiver, I only need one transmitter for what I'm doing. Even if I had a passenger or my student was driving and I was teaching, we could each have a transmitter. We still don't need the receiver. The only time I'm going to need the receiver is when I'm recording directly to my camera or whatever, which, as I mentioned earlier in the video, is a little bit of overkill, that I'm paying for something in the box that I'm never going to need or use. I also had some trouble initially trying to get the files down from the transmitter or the receiver, because A, there aren't any files on the receiver, because I realised they don't store on the receiver, they store on each transmitter. I had to download and install the software, the app, onto my Windows PC, which then asked me to update the firmware on all 3 units. That was a little bit of a pain because the thing kept crashing every time I plugged one of these transmitters in. One of them did the firmware update, the receiver did the firmware update, but one transmitter refused to do the firmware update, kept crashing. I couldn't figure out what was going on. I read on some forums that apparently you've got to have the battery almost fully charged for the firmware update. It wasn't obviously a flat battery, I could turn it on and everything, but obviously not enough for the firmware update. Well, I didn't know that. Didn't say that anywhere that I saw. I read it on a forum. So after I charged it, I was then able to plug it in and do the firmware update. But after doing that, it deleted all the files that were on it, so I had to re-record the files. So a little bit of a struggle straight out of the box. So if you think you can just get this, take it home and start recording, no. There is a little bit of mucking around. You will need to install the app on your phone or your computer. You're more than likely going to have to do a firmware update, and you're going to need to spend a little bit of time familiarizing yourself with the microphones and the system. But after you've gone through all that and you've done it, I think quality-wise, at the end of the day, if you want a mic that is handy, versatile, very practical, because it has a lot of uses and has great audio quality, then I think you're not going to go much past this. The audio quality at the end of the day is what you're paying for, and it's great, sounds great. So, what's the final verdict? I gotta be honest, I love this mic. I love the sound quality of it. I love the size of it. It's so small. My only concern is, am I going to lose it? I haven't even taken the sticker off it yet. Oh, there we go. All nice and shiny. Again, when you consider, and I'm talking in my Heil PR40 microphone here right now, when you consider to get this kind of microphone, if you're sitting in an office and you never leave the office and you're a content creator, fine, get a good quality broadcast microphone. If you're a podcaster, fine, get a good quality broadcast microphone. But these things will set you back a lot of money, or they can do. You don't have to spend a lot, and there certainly is a diminishing return on investment, meaning you can spend $100, $200, $300 and get a pretty reasonable sound, but spending $600 doesn't necessarily double the sound quality. Spending $900 doesn't make it 3 times better. You get to a certain point where the audio is very good, and then every additional $100 or $200 you spend, the difference is minuscule, or can be. And there are so many factors that go into audio, and I'm not going to talk at depth about it in this video. But obviously there's room treatment. If you're talking in a hollow, empty room, is going to sound completely different than if you're talking in a studio with proper insulation and noises in the room, fans, people outside, birds chirping in the trees outside, whatever. Is your microphone a condenser microphone, a dynamic microphone like this one? Is it a USB or does it have an XLR connection? The Heil PR40 is an XLR microphone, so it then needs an audio interface to plug into. That can be another couple of $100. You then need a boom arm or some kind of stand to put the thing on. You need a shock mount. That could be another couple of $100. In my case, with the Heil PR40, I also have a FET head, which is an inline amplifier. You could have a cloud lifter or a FET head or something like that. That could be another couple of $100. So to get this kind of audio as a content creator could easily cost you $1,000. Now, when you consider, you could literally buy something like this. You don't need a boom arm. You don't need an audio interface. You don't need a FET head. You can literally turn this thing on and just talk directly into it. And the audio quality of this is very crisp, very good, very comparable to something like this for a fraction of the cost. You can literally take this anywhere you want to go. So fine, if you're always recording in a studio or your office and you never move from there, fine. It wouldn't be practical for me to take this setup in a suitcase if I was traveling and wanted to do some audio, video on the go. Something like this I literally could. So have a listen to this. The audio quality you are listening to right now is me speaking directly into this little Rode Wireless Go. It sounds great. I'm now speaking back in the Heil PR40. This also sounds great. Is the difference really worth twice the cost or more? No. And bearing in mind, depending on your application, you may not have to get the Wireless Go. You could get the Wireless ME. I believe the audio quality is pretty much on par. The difference being you don't have this receiver, which, as you know, if you've watched the entirety of this video, I'm not going to use anyway. I bought it mainly because I want to record directly onto the unit. So the audio is saved to the unit. I then upload the audio from the unit to my PC. If I didn't already have this setup, I could see how potentially I would just be happy with this setup. Meaning, even if I was in the office and I was creating content, I wouldn't need to go out and buy all of this equipment because the audio quality of this is more than sufficient to create content around. Like literally, if I was doing training videos, which I am doing for my driving school, training videos, whether I'm in the car or in the office or somewhere else, literally, this would be my one-stop go-to, pardon the pun, this would be my go-to microphone. The audio quality of this is, in my opinion, on par with this. I could see that you could potentially do a podcast with this microphone. People who listen to podcasts expect and demand very high-quality audio because most people listening to podcasts are listening directly through earbuds or earphones, good quality headphones. They're not going to put up with any mediocre substandard audio. It has to be pristine. And I could see that potentially the audio quality coming from this would be or could be on par with, switching back to this, could be on par with something like this. Certainly not as bassy, but just as crisp, just as clean, and certainly just as easy to listen to. So this has been the Heil PR40 for the last few moments. Here's a final take on the Rode Wireless Go, and I think the audio quality is great. If you're looking for a good quality wireless microphone setup, this is obviously very good quality audio. It's very practical. It fits in a little bag, the whole setup, and off you go. And I could see potentially if you only had enough money to buy one microphone and you're deciding whether to have a good quality microphone in your office for doing content creation, if you feel that there could be or will be times where you want to be out on the road with a GoPro, with your iPhone, whatever, and you want good quality audio there as well, this is probably the way to go. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. How do you like the audio quality that's coming from the Rode Wireless Go? Let me know.